This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
There's ways, nobody likes to lose games, but there's sometimes you win some games, you don't play that well, maybe don't deserve it, and sometimes you lose games and you've leaned on a team, you've done everything quite possible, and it doesn't go in for you. And that's what I thought this was. It was, we had the puck a lot, we had our chances, they didn't go in. And but I can't fault our effort and everything we did. It was, the bounces, I guess, ran out for us. But if we're going to get that effort, and especially on the road, being on the road for a week, I'll take that with this team. And it's kind of been a staple for them. They work their tail off, and they don't quit. Didn't quit tonight. We got bettered by the goalie played really well, and they committed to defense and blocking shots, and good on them.
It's one way to look at it, for sure. It was funny. I think it might have been Gabby's question to start the press conference, just about the way the Lightning played, and it felt like Coop was like, I thought, we did some good things, and it's interesting always how the coach maybe views it compared to the broadcasters or the fans, for sure. It is Power Lunch on Lightning Radio. What I did find interesting, I don't know if you pick up on this, I always like to look at tone and body language sometimes when you hear athletes speak or coaches or anybody. And I think you can give the other team a little bit more credit when you're on that type of win streak than you are if you've lost 4 in a row and you say, well, look, we made all the turnovers. It's not what they did, partner. It's what we did. But you win 7 in a row. It's like, okay, look, eventually we were going to lose. I'm not going to come out and critique my team too hard. Where can I go? Here's where I can go. The other team played well. Mm-hmm. You don't hear that too often in a loss. It's usually what we didn't do. And you and I have had these conversations for a long time that is true to a degree. But of course, there's somebody else on the other side that gets paid a lot of money to do the exact same thing you're trying to do, which is to win games. And I think sometimes we don't hear enough of that. It's mainly we need to correct our mistakes. And if we take care of what we do, we'll be okay. Again, a degree of truth to that. Maybe a lot of truth. But I also think you can say the same thing. Sometimes the other team may just have a better night. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to say they were better than us. And it usually happens in the setting that Coop gave rather than a different circumstance where you're struggling. Mm-hmm. And it's really not about the other team. It's, no, we're finding ways to lose. That's why we're losing a little bit more.
Yeah, I think there is an element of truth to that, Greg. Like, had the Lightning come in with a 7-game losing streak and they lost that game, the tone from Coop might have been a little different. Like, we played okay is probably what he would say, but we need to bear down and finish some of the chances that we're getting around the net. If some of the other losses going into the game that they played last night would have looked like last night. But I also think that if they had just a complete clunker last night, which they didn't have a clunker last night, but let's say they got blown out 7-0 and just did not play at the level that they need to at all. Your point here is that Coop might have given them a little bit more of a break and said, we didn't play well, but based on what we've done previously, maybe we were due for an off night, as opposed to if they had a clunker after going 500 or something like that. But I think Coop was fairly honest last night, and I don't really disagree with a lot of what he had to say. Particularly in the second and third periods, the Lightning did lean on the Islanders. Did they lean on them as much as they leaned on some other teams during the win streak? Maybe not. It was a low chance game. There weren't a lot of scoring chances for either team. And I think that the chances the Lightning got weren't in the super, super dangerous category. They had a Sorelli breakaway. Even that breakaway, he wasn't in the middle of the ice. He was kind of on the right side, and he had to go to his backhand He maybe didn't have to go to his backhand, but he was on the right side. He went to his backhand. Sorokin made a good save. That might have been the Lightning's best scoring chance. I'm not sure that they had other looks as good as that one. They had looks, though, and that's where the Sorokin factor comes in, because he turned aside the fairly decent chances the Lightning got. The one goal they scored was not even a chance, which is why, I mean, I gave Sorokin a star in our broadcast. I was kind of like, I'm giving him a star, but he gave up a soft goal too, one that normally wouldn't go in. So it was just one of those games. Like, I think the key word actually is bounces. The Lightning really didn't get bounces last night because they had some plays around the net where it just missed, or it hit a body, hit a skate. They took a shot, there was a rebound, the puck missed their stick. Look at the 2 Islander goals. Now, I'm saying that, understanding the Islanders had some chances that they didn't convert on either. Kyle McLean had a 2-on-1 in the first period. He missed the net. Okay, so there was a little bit on the other side too. But look at the 2 Islander goals. So on the first one, the Lightning make a mistake. They get caught in the offensive zone. The Islanders fly out of there 4-on-2. But they don't go right to the net. Horvat is bringing it to the offensive zone. He goes cross-ice to Max Shabanov. Shabanov holds on to it. At that point, 2 of the other Lightning players are back in the defensive zone. Cirelli is the deepest guy. He never gets back in the defensive zone before the puck is in the net. So the Islanders do have an advantage. But it's not like a 2-on-1 cross-ice pass open net. Horvat takes the shot. It's a good shot. Vasi makes the save. Where does the rebound go? It could have gone 10 different places. Right back to Horvat's stick. And I mean, he's not on the doorstep either. It comes right back to him. Vasi's recovering from the first save. Horvat takes another step to the inside and has a lane to shoot it in. So the Islanders earned that bounce in a way because they made a play off the rush. They went cross ice twice. But let's be honest. I mean, it wasn't one of those shots where it's like, sometimes you shoot for the rebound. You know, we've talked about that. Mm-hmm. The guy's on one side. He shoots to the far pad. If the goalie makes the save, it's coming back in the middle or it's going to the other side. You have a teammate there. Horvat's shooting to score in the first one. He gets lucky. The puck comes right back to him. That's hockey. It happens. The Lightning didn't get a bounce like that. The second goal, I'm not even sure the Lightning made a mistake on this one. This is just bad luck. So D'Angelo throws the puck into the middle. Pontus Holmberg blocks it with his chest. The puck drops to the ice. Holmberg is about to make a play on it, and Anthony Duclair reaches out with his stick to deflect it. That's a good play from Duclair. He's getting his stick in the lane. That puck could have gone just like the rebound. 10 different places. Holmberg tries to play it. It hits off Duclair's stick, bounces back behind Holmberg right to Ritchie, who then makes a good play. He's like, thank you very much. He gives it back to Duclair, who's in a prime area, and it's like bang, bang, and it's in the net. So the Islanders got bounces that they said, thank you very much, and they converted on those. I don't think the Lightning got bounces like that. They could have. Shot to the net, rebound, doesn't come to their guy's stick. Shot to the net, rebound, there's one in the second period. Hagel gets it. He's open in the slot. He shoots it, hits an Islander, standing in the low slot. It was one of those sorts of games. In the third period, there's a puck to the net. Bjorkstrand gets it, sweeps it to the net. It just goes wide. It was one of those nights. So they didn't really get the breaks, which is part sometimes in a close game what you need to get points or get wins. But what Coop said is right. Like their effort level, particularly after the first period, I thought they had kind of a sleepy first period. But their effort level was right where it needed to be, I thought, in the final 40 minutes. It just, he's right. The Islanders defended hard. They defended well. They clogged up the middle. They blocked a lot of shots. They didn't give up super dangerous chances. Sorokin made saves. He did. You know, they got some bounces. Like the Lightning didn't benefit from the bounces that the Islanders got in their 2 goals, which is not taking anything away from the Islanders. Look, you get breaks in games. The Lightning have gotten breaks in games during their winning streak. It happens. It's just that if you're only going to score 1, the margin of error
for sure
is very small Where if a couple of plays go against you, you might have to eat a regulation loss, and that's what happened last night.
But it's another game where they defended, relatively well in terms of the
They
goals
did.
allowed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
this is a theme. I mean, because this is a great point to hammer home is that, even when your offense may be struggling or you don't have quite the explosive night partner, you still can look at this and say, you know what? As long as we defend, we've got an opportunity to get points, even if it's not our best. And how many times have we talked about this over the years where maybe it was more on the offense, where the Lightning can say, look, we didn't play our best, we were leaky defensively, but we were able to go out there and score 6 goals and get a win when maybe I don't want to say you didn't deserve it, but certainly it's not the way you would write the offense coming and going as long as you're defending. And that's what you can take from the game yesterday is that, yeah, you lost. Look, 82-game season, folks. I got to be honest with you. You try not to get too emotional with each one. Of course, you want the Lightning to win every game, but people say that all the time. We know that even the really good teams are probably going to finish the year with 20, 25 losses, maybe even more, depending on how things are playing out.
Maybe
so
not Colorado this year.
Maybe not. But the bottom line is I think you can look at that game and say, we're defending. And Dave, as long as we're doing that, we're going to be in more games than not, even if we don't have our best, as opposed to we're not defending and we're just outscoring teams. Because outscoring teams eventually you run into a dry spell. Defending never goes into slumps. It shouldn't. It shouldn't, because in many ways that's about detail, that's about effort. There are certain things you can control. You can't control how well your goaltender is going to play. You could do everything right on a play. You could keep the play in front of you. You can make sure you're boxed out. If a goaltender gives up a soft goal, what are you going to do? That's on him. But for the most part, if I'm defending well and I'm limiting the shots, as a coaching staff, I can take more positives from that game in a defeat than I can, in some ways, if you win 7-6 and you're just really leaky, because you know that 7 goals probably not going to happen as many times throughout a year.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just not going to do it. So the other thing I will point out, and we can certainly take some comments at Bolts Radio. It is Power Lunch on Lightning Radio. Glad you're with us here. I know it was a weird angle. I know it might not mean anything. But that was a good goal. Big goal for Dominic James. Because we had talked about him. Was it in the first intermission? Might have been in the first.
I heard
intermission.
you guys talking about it. Might have been second intermission.
Might have been the second. I think it was. And because did we take some calls or not calls? Did we take some tweets on the show yesterday
A little
about Dominic
bit. Like,
James?
is James's game dipping a little bit? They were wondering about the full shield and everything else. And look, I saw it last night. Like, he's not quite getting to the areas that he was getting to earlier in the season. And what Chief was saying, a lot of it is mental, which that's fair. When you've been a college player, you're playing 2 games a week. Now he's playing 4 games a week with the competition just at a whole other level. But college players do it. Like, they acclimate to the pro game, and he would have had to acclimate whether he was playing in the NHL or the AHL. So you have to kind of fight through that. But, yeah, maybe the goal that he scored last night will give him a little boost.
Yeah, for sure. And, again, you look for positives. In a game like that, positives, you give 2 goals or less, regardless of how you get there, but 2 goals or less is something that you can at least hang your hat on and build off of. The other thing, too, is that Dominic James had a goal, and does that, sometimes it's a cheap goal. When I say cheap, it's, you're not coming down the right wing and ripping it, top shelf. It's probably a goal that 9 times out of 10, maybe 7 times out of 10, the goaltender is going to stop.
Yeah, maybe you make the argument they got a bounce there. I don't know that they got a bounce.
Yeah.
But Sorokin muffed it. He did.
He muffed it.
Yeah.
But maybe that gets him going, and if that gets him going, maybe he goes off on a little bit of a streak and gets his confidence going. I'm curious what our audience thinks about the game. They are preparing, meeting Tampa Bay tomorrow to take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll get into them a little bit more tomorrow, but they're a team that's, some would say, long overdue, going a little younger in their lineup. They're
they
kind
have a teenager, right? I mean,
Ben
we're
Kendall.
seeing more and more teams with teenagers playing and doing well.
They do. In fact, one of the players they got when they traded Jake Gensel to Carolina is on a line with Kindle and a prospect, Rucker McGorty, who has come up. So it's like a kid line. They finally put them together. But all those guys are like 22 and younger. And when's the last time the Pittsburgh Penguins had a lineup of anybody like that? The thing that's interesting there is that you still have these 4 veterans where you're caught in the spot of like rebuilding on the fly, and sometimes it just doesn't work that way. But Crosby is playing at an unbelievable level still.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a little different than because he's playing as well as a 22-year-old would play, right? So as long as he is still producing at Crosby-like levels, not just in terms of goals and points, but everything else that he does, I think that you can acclimate some younger players in. You know, the Capitals have gotten hot. They're out in California. They just beat the Kings in LA. I was wondering if Ovechkin would start to be, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, it's just, speaking plainly, he's 40 years old, right?
Right.
And last year he was very motivated to get to the Gretzky record, and he got it, and the Caps rallied around that, and he got off to a very slow start offensively this year. He has reached double-digit goals, so, he's starting to heat up. But that is a fair question about, like, all right, he's 40, he's still playing the full 2 minutes in the power play, but how are we using him 5-on-5 as the rest of our team? If it's not getting younger, like we have prospects who are coming up, we have the Protuses, we have the McMichaels. Wilson is now a legitimate. He's not a superstar. Like he's an elite player. So you have him, and he's in his prime. You got Chikrin. Like you've got good players.
You do.
Who are at the beginning of their careers or in the prime of their careers, but you have to work the lineup with Ovechkin, allowing him to use his strengths, but understanding that he's 40. And you probably are not going to want to play him like 8 minutes a night. That is a little trickier to me than the Crosby situation, where Crosby is not playing like somebody who's 38, right? I don't think he is. Or if he's playing like somebody who's 38, he's playing at an exceptional level at 38 years old. But we'll see. I mean, look, they have exceeded expectations so far this year. They've been one of the teams, I think a lot of people,
right,
myself included, I didn't know about Ben Kindle and how he would play.
Put me in that camp too.
But, I think a lot of people felt that there were some teams that were going to be trending down in the East.
And they still might be. I want to be very clear. They still might be. The new
but
coach
to this
boost.
point, they haven't.
Right.
There have been a number of teams that haven't in the East. That's why the standings are so packed still.
We'll get into them tomorrow a little bit more, but it is interesting how that is playing out for them. So that should be an entertaining game, I would think, tomorrow. Anything you want to jump into? Any updates we have before we get into some
calls?
calls?
I'm agreeing with what you're saying about the defending. Yes. Yeah. That was good to see that the Lightning, in a loss, still played hard. They defended hard. They battled. They had some rush coverage hiccups in the first period. They weren't like egregious to the point that it wasn't like the Detroit game in the first period where Coop made a point afterward and said, we didn't defend well at all in the first period. I don't think the first period last night was in that category. But they gave up some space. Let's say that. They gave us some space off the rush to the Islanders. There was less of that in the second and third. So they didn't play a perfect defensive game, but they played well enough. And, they did limit chances. The Islanders finished with only 23 shots. 44 attempts. Now, they were playing with the lead, so they were playing, I'll say conservatively, like they wanted to make sure that they took care of their own end first, which they did. So they deserve credit for that. So it's less about like, oh my gosh, they lost a game. We knew they were going to lose a game. It's what comes next. They were able to string together 7 straight wins. Now you've lost one. What's going to happen in the next game? Can you get back on the winning side? Or is it going to like start growing in the wrong direction?
Sure.
Right? This is one of these kind of like pressure point moments. That's probably not the right way of putting it, but like the pendulum might swing in one of two ways. And are the Lightning able to like shut the faucet off right now? I mean, they're going to get 2 more cracks against the Islanders, and if last night's game is any indication, like these are going to be well-defended, tight-checking, tough games. They got the Islanders coming in to Tampa on Saturday. Next is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has exceeded expectations. Pittsburgh's coming off a good road win in Philadelphia. Let's see what happens. But for the Lightning, I think it's less about the loss and more about what comes next. I even said that during the winning streak. I said, at some point they're going to lose a game. Then what? How are they going to rebound and respond after that loss? And by the way, they sent Max Groshev back to Syracuse today. It's an off day. But that may be a positive indication for Crozier, who Coop said was going to be the first guy back in all likelihood and is close.
Yeah.
Now they may call up a defenseman again tomorrow as a 7th defenseman. And if that happens, I think it's likely Crozier won't be ready to go. But he might. He might be ready. We'll see. Or maybe they were just saving on the cap, which is possible too.
We know there's that part of the process of that. It's going to be interesting because Pittsburgh usually plays Tampa Bay pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
So that game could be ugly. And when I say ugly, it could be for both teams. I mean, that could be a 6-5 game. It could be anything. I think the key is if you are scuffling after that win streak, you quickly have to regain momentum back because there are ebbs and flows to the season here. I mean,
let's not lose sight of the fact this is a tough stretch of 7-9 on the road.
It's a lot of games. So, they are facing these injuries. Listen, the other thing too is kind of the elephant in the room. If you don't believe that this is sustainable, this type of play with these many star players out, eventually you come back to the norm. In other words, maybe reality starts to hit. Maybe guys start to show some warts that they otherwise didn't early on. Maybe because they were playing on adrenaline. Maybe they were just, a lot of players can play well, Dave, for a 2 to 3 week stretch. Guys who aren't regular NHL players. Of course, that may not happen. That's the flip side of this. It's like, okay, so how long can they maintain this level of play with these players out who are significant contributors? And that nobody knows the answer to that, by the way. We don't. And so it's important, to your point, that you quickly rectify the issues. And I say issues, it's more of like, don't let this one loss dovetail into 5. And how do you do that? You do what you've been doing, which is defend.
Yeah.
You defend. If you
It'll
can
give
defend,
you a chance to get points at the very
that's exactly
least.
what this is. Because really, should we be talking more about the fact that they've accumulated all these points with guys who are starters and play at a very high level who are out of the lineup? I mean, that is a significant storyline for this Lightning team. Yeah, they're winning games, but with that came at a cost where these players aren't in the lineup because of injuries. And you found a way to go from next to last in the Eastern Conference to first place in the Atlantic. Now, the season doesn't end today. We know that. That is a huge storyline. And this is the reason why people have said John Cooper should have some inside track on Coach of the Year.
It's early, but yes.
It's very early. Stop putting the guys who you put at the beginning of the year who weren't supposed to win, that are defying the odds, instead of the guy who you probably looked at the Lightning. In fairness, a lot of national pundits did. The Lightning are on a downward trajectory, not an upward trajectory. It's time to at least have more of these conversations regarding the job that they have done.
Well, I will say 2 things. First of all, a lot of the people who are saying and writing about this have stuff to fill. They have shows to fill. They have columns to write. They have to come up with material, and this is right now present, right? I mean, it is a talking point because the Lightning have had so many injuries and they're doing so well. So it's like, oh, well, John Cooper is exceeding expectations and succeeding in the face of adversity, which are 2 of the 3 components I always talk about when you're thinking about Coach of the Year. The third is just general excellence, right? like finishing near or at the top of the standings. But these same pundits are the ones that I saw this. Who is Charles-Edouard Destoux? Like, I actually saw somebody like write that. Who is Charles-Edouard Destoux when he scored in Nashville? Now, he had been up for a week at that point. Lightning had signed him. He was playing pro hockey. This is a guy who was the Q Defenseman of the Year in junior. We talked about the 4 top defenseman awards he's won before he came to the Lightning's organization. So look, I'm not saying they should have known who Charles-Edouard Destoux was, but there was just a lot of information out there, right? Like, somebody who's covering the whole league, it's hard to be in the weeds on everything. So you can't be in the weeds on everything. So you try and, like, I don't know, drop fertilizer over a whole field, and you're not, really getting in. So you're just doing the best you can. This is now a talking point, right? I can understand why it's a talking point, but I agree with you, or I even said it. It's way too early. I mean, we're not even a third of the way through the season, for crying out loud. So maybe we're a third. I'm getting close to a third. Lightning played 26 games. I'll say this. I would like to see them get right back on the horse, obviously. But because I talk about playoff pace probably too much on this show, I will just point out, Lightning have played 26 games. In the next 4, if they can get 2 points, they will meet their playoff pace goal.
Yeah.
That's what this streak has helped them do, putting things in context. Now, I would like them to get more. I, personally, am greedy. Like, I would like to see them get bonus points so that if they hit a rut later, and by later, I'm really looking in January, where they have a ton of road games, and coming out of the Olympic break, where they have another stretch in which they play a ton of road games. That will give them a little insurance in case they hit a skid. But just speaking today, 34 points after 26 games, they are in great shape to hit their playoff pace marker for this 10-game segment. Remember, they were at 24 after 20. So they got to pace. They made up the 2 points that they gave up in the first 10-game segment. You start 5-0 in your 10-game segment, which is what they did. You're 10 of the 12 points that you need already, accumulated. So they need 2 more. Let's see if they can get it tomorrow. That's just my way of saying they've put themselves in a very good spot, but I would like to see them not come back to earth here. Keep pressing. And I agree with what your overall point is, that if you can play as hard as they are playing and defend as hard as they are playing and defend as well as they are defending, they should be in a position to get points not just tomorrow, but moving forward as they finish the 2-game homestand and then go back on the road.
I would agree with all of that. If people want to get involved in that conversation, please do. What do you expect from the Lightning coming up here? And the game yesterday against the Islanders. Let's get to some questions, partner. Thaw345 says, I enjoyed the broadcast despite the outcome last night. Mission the boys are the class of the league.
I assume by the boys, Thaw is talking about you and the group in the studio.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe it's the...
Or maybe the team. I don't know.
Is it your Christmas? Your Christmas props behind you? You were playing that with me. I love that.
Yeah. These have been accumulated through the years. Maybe at the end of each show when I'm home, I'll take one and we'll play the song. So maybe that's not appropriate for Power Lunch, but I know you would like it because Christmas is your favorite holiday.
I love Christmas. It is just great. And, we need more of it. All right. Question. Mythos. I'm assuming can't win every game.
Yeah.
I think we played great. Sorokin seemed to just be a wall last night. Let's come back strong tomorrow.
Did they play great? I think they played a little below great, but they played well enough. I mean, I think playing great would have allowed them to maybe break down the Islanders a little more than they did. Islanders deserve credit. They dug in defensively. They certainly did. As much as we talked about, well, they got Matthew Schaefer and they can skate and, they got some young legs and some excitement, and they're scoring more now. Like, they kind of settled into their bedrock foundation of defending, which is that was their identity when they were going deep in the playoffs, for sure. When they met the Lightning.
Yeah, that is true.
In the semifinals, we'll say 2 years in a row.
That is true. They've always been a good defensive team. I think in part because we've talked about this partner. I don't know if they've had, the great talent, so to speak. Mm-hmm. On a lot of that.
I'll just mention we didn't really see Schaefer dazzle last night. I mean, you can see he can skate. But what we heard about him is like he's one of the best skaters in the NHL. I didn't see that last night, which is not a knock on him. I just think that it may be one of those games where, he didn't have as much room to skate. The Lightning, I think, were aware of him when he tried to skate. They kind of got in his way a little bit.
Yeah.
But a player like that, you're not going to just keep down, right? Like, I mean, he came off a month in which he had 11 points in November from the blue line. So we'll see if he is, let's just say, more noticeable in the next 2 games between the teams. But he didn't play badly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a defenseman, so he contributed. He had that block on Hagel that I was talking about.
Did.
Where Hagel had the rebound, and it looked like, Sorokin was down, and Hagel couldn't get it past Schaefer, who was kind of playing goalie. Hagel had 6 shot attempts blocked last night. Not one went on net. I think he might have missed the net once. Lightning had a flurry during the 6-on-5. We didn't really get into that. I checked it to the end of the game, and I'm like, I think they're going to add some stuff here. So they did, because I checked the play-by-play today, and they had added, because I'm like, I know Jake Gensel had a shot attempt, and he wasn't even listed in the play-by-play, because I checked it after the game. I'm like, this is going to get revised. So if you want to hear the 6-on-5 for the Lightning, this is how it transpired. So actually, James scored. James scored with 3:34 left. Lightning win the faceoff at center ice, get it in, pull Vasilevsky. Islanders shoot toward the open net, miss. It's an icing. Okay? So after that, actually in between the icing, there was, I'm reading the play-by-play wrong. Barzal missed on a long shot that went wide of the net. That was the icing. But he had a chance to score. Didn't miss by much. Then Simon Holmstrom missed. It was not an icing. It was from the red line. That missed the open net. So the Lightning dodged 2 bullets. They bring it into the offensive zone. The first activity listed on the play-by-play is with 1:41 seconds left. The final one is with 1:18 seconds left. So that's 23 seconds. This is what happened. Radish shot on goal. 10 seconds later, Hagel blocked by Pulock. 5 seconds later, Hagel wrist shot wide of the net. 3 seconds later, Cirelli deflected shot on net, save Sorokin. 1 second later, Gensel wide of the net. So that was a shot, save, rebound that went wide. And then 4 seconds after that, Radish shot blocked by Simon Holmstrom. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shot attempts in 23 seconds. I mean, in another situation, one of those might have gone in. 1 missed, 2 missed. There was a save in there, a block, a couple of blocks. That's the way it went last night. But I mean, Coop's looking at that and being like, we battled. Like we threw a lot of rubber toward the net. It just didn't go in. That would have tied the game.
It's fair to point out. Let's get to some more questions. Tonight, enjoy some Refrom, smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrom is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrom by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly. All right. Let's get to some more questions. TC Pipman. I'm a bit worried about a letdown game after a road trip, especially to an inferior opponent like the aging Penguins. They are truly awful.
Well, that is a little severe. I didn't catch the handle for that fan. First of all, they do have younger players, as Greg has just said, and they are not truly awful. They have had a good start to the year.
You know what also, too, is happening? They're getting goaltending. So Tristan Jarry, I think we know some of his issues. He's a two-time All-Star, but I think most people in Pittsburgh would tell you they don't trust him in net. Somewhere along the line, maybe this year, maybe it was before the season, some focus issues came in play in terms of like got to be dialed in every time, and he's been the better goaltender. But his name's also been thrown around a little bit for trades because of his contract. But Tristan Jarry is a good goaltender when he's on his game. He's
scored a
been
goal
leaky
against
times.
the Lightning
He
here
did.
a couple of years ago.
They also have some injuries though. Raquel, the biggest one, who's a really good goal scorer in this league still. He was playing with Crosby. But look, you have Crosby and Rust. That's always two guys who are hard on pucks, Dave, as you know.
Yeah.
And it feels like Crosby always makes the right decision. Malkin's picking up some points. They've got Mantha, who, he's bouncing around the league, but he's playing with Malkin at times. And then that kid line they feel like is somebody that is a group they like. And then, what is it, Boca and Mama? Just got called
is he
up.
there?
They just called him up. Well, they played the Flyers, and there was some history there, and so they brought him up.
He played a little bit with them last year, if I'm remembering
16 games or something like
Yeah.
that. But he's up with them. So, and Matt Dumba's with
Yes, I saw
Pittsburgh
that.
again sometimes. So they got a couple of former Lightning players.
The
But
fan was asking about a letdown. Look, first home game back after a road trip, and this was a fairly long road trip. I mean, it felt long.
yeah,
It was like we left on Thanksgiving, and then it was boom, boom, right? And then I felt like we had 3 days because the game day on Tuesday was a stay at the hotel day for a lot of us. I mean, the Lightning had the optional to the rink. So it felt like a fairly long trip in terms of days. So let's see how the Lightning do when they come back home. They did very well when they came back from playing Vegas,
yep.
which was a long trip in terms of days and distance. But it can be tricky. The Penguins played on Monday, so they've had a little bit of time here. I don't know when they got to Tampa, but they've had time to kind of get ready for this game. The Lightning got in very late last night. We had, not quite sure what it was, but we didn't take off right away. Not an air traffic controller situation unlike the trip out west, but it just, we sat on the tarmac for a while. So I think that might have been one factor in why the Lightning had the day off today, and they'll have a full skate tomorrow.
Sure.
So they're going to have to bounce back. That's just the way it is. I will point out that, the Lightning are traveling usually a fairly long distance to get home after they finish a road trip, with a couple of exceptions. Florida, obviously, is one. Carolina, not too bad. It's about an hour and a half, honestly. The other closer cities, which are really like Nashville and to an extent Dallas, you're losing an hour, right? Mm-hmm. So you're getting home later. So it's not insignificant when the Lightning finish a road trip with an afternoon game. So the next road trip that they have, which is the one next week, ends against the Islanders. That game's a 3:30 game. So the Lightning are not getting home in the middle of the night. Then their next road game is back-to-back, start of a back-to-back at Florida after Christmas. That's a short trip. Then they go out to California. The last game on the California trip is an afternoon game. They're going to come home straight after that game against San Jose. Mm-hmm. Now, they might have spent the night and flown the next day, but that's its own kettle of fish, as you say, because you're wasting a whole extra day to get sleep that night, so you're not flying completely through the night. So it's actually not too bad, these next couple of trips. But the one last night, I rolled into bed. It was after 3 a.m. So, we'll see how the Lightning are able to, as I've said many times, these guys are in a different phase of life in a much better shape than me in every way imaginable. But we'll see how they're able to bounce back. I'm also not being asked to go on the ice and compete, right? So it was a long trip home.
You're not going to dive on a loose puck, block a shot, partner?
No.
That would be. Now, listen, you love these types of questions that I'm going to put on our screen right now. Because Can't wait for this one. Michael says, Oliver Bjorkstrand has averaged 22 goals a season, but he's currently on pace for only 6. What are the Lightning going to do with him? Could he be moved for another piece? Was I right?
Well, look,
you love that question.
Yeah, we've talked about the fact that he has struggled this year. He has. He is not on his current goal pace. I thought he was actually more dangerous in a limited role just because he was new to the team and kind of getting settled. But I mean, he scored a couple of goals last year. He looked like the usual Bjorkstrand, snapping pucks. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited to see how he'd do this year, and just hasn't come together for him. So the question is, can he be moved? Yes, he can be moved. I don't believe he has a no trade clause. He's already been traded once. If he has one, he waived it to come to the Lightning. But he's on the same contract that he was on when he was traded the first time. He's on an expiring contract. So the Lightning, like, let's be honest, let's hope the Lightning are not in seller mode, but could the Lightning make a hockey trade? Possibly. I mean, it's possible. I think that they're still using him in a capacity where they're hoping that he gets going. And if he gets going, he should revert to the form that he has showed throughout his NHL career. It's kind of like what I was saying. Remember we had that conversation about Hagel a couple of years ago, and you were wondering 10-team no trade list. Thank you, Steve. Does that mean there are 10 teams that he would go to or would not go to? Because that makes a difference.
My sense that would be 10 teams he would go to.
All right, so that's a fairly
how that
limited
works,
list.
right?
Well, the 10-team no trade might mean that 10 teams that
don't
or maybe
send me.
Well, you can give a list of 10 or you can give a list of 21. That's the difference, right?
I think 10 teams he can stop.
Okay, so it's
gotcha.
You can say no to 10, but you can't say no to the other 21.
Right.
Anyway, when we talked about Hagel, I want to say it was after the year the Lightning acquired him and he struggled to score after the deadline. And then in the playoffs, he played with Cirelli and Killorn, and that line didn't score, but they defended very well. Lightning got to the Stanley Cup final, and you and I had this discussion. You were like, who is Brandon Hagel? Is Brandon Hagel the guy that the Lightning saw, or is Brandon Hagel the guy who played in Chicago and scored a lot? And I'm like, I saw the guy play in Chicago, and I don't think you just lose the ability to score.
You did say that.
So
you did
in this
say that.
one instance,
you were right.
I was right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I was right. Hagel has exceeded, I think, everyone's expectations, though. I'm not sure that, when we had that conversation, we were thinking that he was going to be turning into the player that he became, scoring all these goals, 35 goals last year, none in the power play, 4 nations, certainly in line to get on the Canadian Olympic team. But I think the same philosophy holds for Bjorkstrand, where it's not like Bjorkstrand is like 1 year in the NHL. I mean, he's been a very reliable scorer, even as he's probably gone through some, ebbs and flows throughout seasons. So, my hope would be that he's going to find another gear here. But yes, I mean, the question simply was, can he be traded? Yes, he can be traded. Although he has a 10-game or a 10-team list.
There is a track record. When a player struggles, as a coaching staff, as a fan base, as Oliver Bjorkstrand probably should be looking at this and saying, I've done it before, I will do it again. It's fair to say that he will get back on track. However, every player, shouldn't say every, a lot of players have an off year. It can happen. I mean, look, we were talking about Bjorkstrand. We've talked about it with Braden Point. It can happen. Victor Hedman. The reason you don't think it's going to last is because there is a track record of them producing. Now, Bjorkstrand's not in the same class as Point and Hedman, but he is an accomplished veteran who knows how to score goals. Now, could you come to me at the end of the year and just say, look, he lost his confidence and he lost his way, and you have to hope for a rebound season? Yeah, that could happen. That could. And partner, I was saying before you cut off, we've seen that in sports.
Yeah.
Where sometimes a guy, it just doesn't happen. Look at baseball. You could be a 300 hitter and then maybe you get traded and you end up hitting 275 with a bunch of strikeouts, and it was just a down year, but you come back and you do pretty well. That happens in sports. I think what we don't know that Julian and his staff are looking at and have access to, are there metrics they're looking at on a day-to-day basis, or at least on a game-to-game basis, that is letting them know A, we think he's about to turn it around, or B, there's some underlying concerns here. Mm-hmm. Because you have a stat, a metric for everything. I mean, how many steps does he take to go to the restroom? And how quickly does he get there with his pads on? I mean, I'm exaggerating, of course, but you understand. I mean, everybody has access to any metric out there. The ones that matter are the ones that the Tampa Bay Lightning organization are looking at. Mm-hmm. And if they're seeing something there that is causing them to believe that maybe his play is dipping for various reasons that are concerning, they're going to bring it up and maybe they're going to address it in whatever way they do. We don't know that, though. We can only just go off of, is he getting chances, and is there a previous track record of him producing? For sure to the latter point.
Yeah.
I think that getting chances, it's been more hit or miss this year.
It has been more hit or miss.
And I think that's a fair analysis.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I saying bench him? No. I think for the reasons in the latter point, I keep throwing him out there, and eventually talent does take over if you're working hard. The power play hasn't worked. And it's not just Bjorkstrand, but to me, I don't think he can be the player receiving the cross-ice pass from Kucherov, because I think in order for that position to be somewhat successful, I think you need a one-timer. Mm-hmm. I don't think he does the one-timer. I don't think he may. I don't think that's his strong suit. And I actually think the guy that probably feels the best about doing a one-timer is Darren Radish, but I don't think you want to move him.
Yeah, he tried that spot. They tried him at that spot last year, and right now, he is where he should be in the middle of the ice at the blue line.
I don't think they have somebody who feels comfortable and is maybe a consistent threat with the one-timer. Not even on Stamkos's level. Forget that comparison. You're not getting a Hall of Famer coming back through those doors at Benchmark International and assuming that position. That's
By
not
the way,
happening.
he just got his 1,200th point, so congratulations.
Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Famer. And so this is where you kind of get into, I think their best one-timer is the guy that usually is the one making those passes, which is Kucherov. But you're going to have to do some things differently to figure that out. That's a work of progress. And maybe this is an opportunity to get Hagel on the power play, a little bit more on that first unit. Maybe you put him on that side along the left wall, the left circle.
They've tried it with Hagel, though, and that's not the setup.
It hasn't been a sweet spot.
Yeah,
I guess that's what I'm saying.
Spot.
And I don't know who it is. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I will tell you this. I think everybody just assumed Bjorkstrand, shooter, going to do really well in the power play playing with. I haven't seen it yet. And I think it's because there is a either unwillingness or being uncomfortable shooting the one-timer. Mm-hmm. And that's just, they're going to have to figure that out.
I mean, they could move him to the bumper, which we talked about with Point in the lineup, Point being out of the lineup right now. That would mean a lefty goes to the left circle.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they could put him. That is a spot where he has been used before in the NHL.
There's no doubt. I think the inconsistencies on the power play for him, I don't want to say has spilled over into his 5-on-5 game offensively, but you can't tell me a guy who has gotten points on the power play and is not finding that rhythm there.
Yeah,
that's not
it's
bleeding over, right? Yeah, it has to be.
We're seeing this guy fumble pucks. We didn't see that during his time with the Lightning last year.
Agree.
We didn't see it in more limited exposure when he played for other teams, but we just didn't see that from him. That's not really how he's played.
I know. I just
yes, going on a Brandon Hagel type of heater may be unrealistic for him. The 15 goals in basically a little over a month. But going on a little bit of a heater, I think, would help him immensely.
TC Pitman says, and yes, this was put out there so I can enjoy Greg's reaction. Thomas from Lutz. Thomas, you're great. Thomas stopped by the last call.
Yeah, you
presented by
told me
Jack
that.
Daniels. He was always enjoy talking to Thomas. Alan says tough night. Things didn't go our way last night, but the compete level is consistently there. That is a trait of a Stanley Cup level team.
Well, I think there are guys who are playing with some hunger. I mean, they're either new to the NHL, they're back in the NHL, a guy like Santini. And I think it's spreading through the team. Like other guys are feeding off of that hunger, and it's become, throughout the lineup.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's hard to, I mean, look, it's hard to play at that level. You want to say effort needs to be there every game. But, I mean, there are going to be games where you're going to be off. I mean, the Rangers had an objectively horrific game against the Lightning. Then they came back last night and they beat Dallas. So, look, they needed a late goal. They won in overtime. They needed a late goal to get it to overtime. And they had over 40 shots. I can guarantee you that they played a lot harder against Dallas.
Right.
Because they had a clunker. And they were like, we need to bounce back. Teams are going to have these. But as long as that is the exception and not the norm, you're going to put yourself in a good spot, I think.
Let's get to a few more questions here on the show. Eric says, fun game last night. 8 out of 10 times the boys win 4-2, but we lost the puck luck and goaltending battle. Vasi was Vasi, but Sorokin was above and beyond. Last night showed me never look a heady in the mouth. I will take him every day. Did I read that right? I think I read that right.
He's not coming back anytime soon. That was what Coop said. Heddy's going to be a while, even though he was on the ice practicing. Yeah, I mean, look, you hope that the guys who have been out when they come back are like, we want to be a part of this and play at the same level. My level, which is maybe a different level than somebody else's level, but I'm going to play to the level that is like my high-end level. That like rising tide, lifts all boats, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, a player on the roster is a boat. You know what I mean?
I do. Ultimate Lemons. Do you guys know when they're going to release the Stadium Series jerseys designs? These releases sell out quick.
Good question. I think that I saw when they released the Winter Classic jerseys for the Panthers and Rangers, it came out 6 weeks beforehand. Does that sound right? Mid-November? That's usually around the time. I don't know this for a fact, but the game is, February 1st? Is that the game?
Mm-hmm.
I should know it by heart, I guess. I've heard enough promotions for it. So February 1st. So you're looking at mid-December. So it should be coming up. If it's 6 weeks. I don't know if it is 6 weeks. But I don't think it's going to be. If it's not 6 weeks, it's not going to be closer to 4 weeks. I think they're going to get this jersey out in advance of a month beforehand. In other words, more than a month before the game.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess my math. Yeah, that's right. Because February 1st. So go back a month, January. Now we're into December. So I think it's going to be sometime in December. We should have a marketing person on with
before
us.
Christmas.
That's right. Yes. Great Christmas gift.
How about that? K-Bay says, I think the slow start in the first really didn't help, but overall there were a lot of positives to take out of the game. I think it's fair. I mean, look, we didn't come on this show and we were like, I just can't believe they played this way. I mean, we're like, look, they did some good things. The Islanders did them better, and what are you going to do? At Dio Hippo, I felt they got goalied.
Again, I think that's an overstatement.
I mean, I thought Sorokin was good. Did
Sorokin
you think
was
he was
good.
like?
I don't
think he was great.
Yeah. So that game that I was talking about, where the Islanders lost to the Bruins 3-1, there was an empty netter in there. They outshot the Bruins 44-14. I'm pretty sure they got goalied. I don't think Sorokin goalied the Lightning last night. When you get goalied, it means so John Gibson in the first meeting between the Lightning and Detroit, where the Lightning were down 1-0 in the third, and they put 19 shots on net, and it was one of the last ones that went in to get the game tied. He almost goalied them in the third period. I mean, he was stopping chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. We didn't see that last night. Sorokin was solid. He was solid. He had to make some saves on higher danger chances, like the Cirelli breakaway. And Cirelli had a tip, like I talked about in the 6-on-5. But he was not under siege. I don't think he was under siege. I think the Islanders defended better than that in front of him.
I thought he was good. I didn't come away from that thinking, my goodness, Sorokin was outstanding. I think we've seen better goaltender performances from other goaltenders this year.
Some of this is semantics, so I took exception to the term goal lead because that to me means something a little different than what we saw last night. But the Islanders won the game in large part because their goalie played very, very well. There's no disputing that.
Let me get to this one. Aaron says, tight game. Bounces didn't go our way. Need to keep positive momentum of the win streak going.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you. Tampa Bay says, the 2 goals were avoidable, but it's hard to win. If you only score 1, got to give credit to Sorokin, too. Man, Sorokin! He's getting
didn't we
love
have a
on
fan
this
question
show.
yesterday? Like, is Sorokin still considered an elite goalie? Look, he played well last night.
I don't think he's
He's not had a great
goalie,
year
do you?
record-wise. I think that win got him to Hockey 500, as I was mentioning yesterday in the broadcast for sure. I think I mentioned it on the show, too. Riddick has actually had the better record this year, even though he's played 1 out of every 3, and Sorokin has played 2 out of every 3. We'll see. Islanders are in the mix. I mean, the Islanders could be a playoff team this year. Like, overcoming their major injuries is not going to be easy, but who knows?
Yeah.
As we've talked about, is there a team in the East, and the Lightning fans hope it's the Lightning, but is there a team in the East that is really going to be like, or let's say 3 or 4 teams in the East that are just going to vault ahead, and they are clearly the cream of the crop? I'm not sure that we can say that at this point. I mean, maybe by the time we hit, the 2026 and into the Olympics and coming out of the Olympics, maybe we'll see more separation. But right now, it's pretty much anyone's ball game.
How many? I've seen this a lot. We actually had some questions about this we didn't get to yesterday that dealt with Florida and Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize Florida's at the bottom of the standings.
Yeah.
Now, I know they've got some issues, some injuries, and look, we talk about this, the cumulative effect of going deep into the playoffs multiple years. So I think, is all that in play? Could be. Injuries for sure. It's hard to sit here, partner, and say that that's going to happen to the Panthers throughout the whole year.
Also, being at the bottom of the standings in this particular year is not quite the same as being in the bottom of the standings.
Correct.
Let's say a couple of years ago where there was a huge gap. Like they still, with a good run, can get back into it. But once you start having to leapfrog a bunch of teams, it does become more difficult. The second half of the year may be a real slog for them, understanding they're expecting to get Kachuk back at some point.
The more teams you've got to leapfrog and really make that sprint to get into the playoffs, we're talking about energy depleted from the last 2-3 years of long playoff runs.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to look like in the first round if they make the playoffs? I think that's a fair question. I think that's on the table. That being said, I don't think you ever want to challenge the heart of a champion. And we said the same thing when the Lightning were winning back-to-back cups. I mean, you find a way, okay? And it doesn't look great now, but to your point, parity does a lot of, I don't want to say bad things for a league. The good things are basically you have to really stink to not have a chance to get into the playoffs at this point in the season.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, 25, 30 games in, even the teams you think aren't going to get in, they're still within a stone's throw of potentially getting there. I mean, Florida's only 6 points out of a playoff spot. Now, granted, they've got to jump through all of those teams, but my point is taken that you've got how many more games to make up that ground. And so keep that all in mind.
Yeah, well, look, they've lost 3 in a row. They've played 15 home games and 10 road games, so that is not ideal for them. Because as much as we say, well, they're a great team and all that, like it's not easy to just go on the road and rattle off wins. It's not. That's why I've been talking about the stretch in January for the Lightning and the difficult stretch coming out of the Olympic break. So, yeah, they're within reach. The standings aren't quite as bunched as they were, let's say, a couple of weeks ago in the East when I wrote that column talking about how bunched they were. They're still fairly bunched, and it's not like Florida is way out in the wilderness and can't get back into it. But they're going to have to turn this around, and just saying, well, we're going to do it because we have the pedigree and we've done it in the past. Who knows? I mean, let's not forget, with John Cooper as the head coach, where he had a full season, the Lightning missed the playoffs 1 year. That 1 year was in between 2 separate trips to the conference finals. So it's not like they were building to something. Like, it was the first year that they missed, and then they started making the playoffs. This 1 year got dropped in the span of like consecutive years making the playoffs. They've made the playoffs every year since. I'm talking about the 16-17 season. But what happened that year? They had a bunch of injuries, significant injuries, and they had a horrific stretch in the middle part of the season, and they could not recover in time.
Good point.
I'm not saying that it's definitely going to happen to the Panthers, but the longer this goes, where they don't, like, they need a run kind of like the Lightning had. There's no guarantee that's going to happen.
I agree.
I mean, Marchand to me has been their best player. That's a credit to him. But he's 38 years old? Is he going to be able to carry this team through the next 55 games? When Matthew Tkachuk comes back, okay, well, what shape is he going to be in? He has the heart of a champion. He does. For everything else that we can say about him, and he rubs Lightning fans the wrong way. Like, he has willed that team to another level. There's no question. But, like, what can he do now? Coming off missing 8 months or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
You can't just wave your magic wand and automatically get back to the level where you were at. He even said last year where he missed, the last 2 months of the regular season because he got hurt in the Four Nations. He was like, I was not myself at the beginning of the playoffs when the Lightning and Panthers met. It took him several rounds to kind of get to where he needed to get. Now, that was playoffs. That was a little different than regular season, but can't miss that much time and expect to just drop in. And it's like Brian Engblom says, you're joining the washing machine on spin. So anyway, I'm sure Lightning fans are reveling in, the Panthers' struggles. I don't know if they're going to continue, but we've seen this happen before where, it kind of goes off the rails, and it's hard to just say, well, we're going to do it and then do it, particularly as we've had a very competitive conference this year.
That's true.
Anyway, we can end on that note.
We'll be with everybody tomorrow, getting set for Lightning and Penguins. Get those questions in at Bullets Radio, and tons of people listening and watching the show today, so we appreciate that. Partner, great job, as always. Glad to have you back in Tampa, and thanks to Steve Versnick, Jared Johnson. And for everybody listening, I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.